This is the latest MedTech Unplugged webinar brought to you by Navro MedTech Recruiting, and thank you for joining. Today, we are thrilled to welcome a dynamic team that is absolutely paving the way for some exciting roles in electrophysiology and CRM. John Boettcher serves as the director of the UTHealth EP Heart training program at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston, where he leads the development, curriculum, and job placement of candidates entering electrophysiology and cardiac rhythm management roles. His background spans more than 3 decades in cardiac rhythm management, including leadership as a regional sales director at St. Jude Medical and extensive experience with Medtronic across sales, clinical support, and technical training. Wendy Boettcher is a clinical instructor at the UTHealth EP Heart cardiovascular electrophysiology program and a registered nurse with deep experience across electrophysiology, device management, and advanced mapping. She holds multiple advanced credentials and is a fellow of the Heart Rhythm Society with a background that spans ICU education, device clinics, industry consulting, and field-based EP roles. So without further ado, I'm very excited to turn it over to you two to share with us from classroom to cath lab inside the UTHealth EP Heart certification pathway, which is really paving the way for amazing careers in this space. John and Wendy.
Jenny, thank you so much. We're so happy to be here. We appreciate the invitation and welcome and thank you to everyone attending online. Want to give you a little overview of our program. We're kind of unique. There's only a couple of programs like this in the country. And we're considered a workforce training program for students, professionals that would like to enter the cardiac medical device industry, specifically in a couple different areas: cardiac rhythm management, which is pacemakers, defibrillators, heart failure devices; electrophysiology, which is the mapping and ablation of arrhythmias like atrial fibrillation or ventricular tachycardia, amongst many others. And we're also involved with structural heart, which is repair and replacement of defects in the heart like bad valves that can be done with a catheter-based approach rather than open heart surgery. So our 6-month training program is going to give you a technical overview on all those things, but the bigger aspect of it, or just as important, is the placement assistance we're going to provide you. We're going to bring in 15 or more companies or divisions of companies during your 24 weeks in the program, and you'll be introduced to 25 to 30 actual hiring managers that can then introduce you to managers all over the country. So you avoid the HR personnel, that rejection notice you get as soon as you apply for a job and you don't particularly meet their qualifications, you get rejected. We're going to get you into the process before the job gets posted. So a little bit about the program. These are some of the companies that we work with. There's many more, but the big companies: Johnson & Johnson, Medtronic, Abbott, Boston Scientific, Edwards, Biotronic. These are all companies that we've had students go to work for, and they're very difficult to get in. A big part of that reason is when you get hired, it's about a 2-year process to get you up to speed. It takes 9 months to a year for you to get through their individual training programs before you're kind of allowed to go work on your own. And it takes another year of experience before you really can earn the trust and credibility of the physicians to a point where they care what you have to say or think, because that's really the goal of all these companies, to provide reps that are a resource to the physician and to the patients. So for them to hire somebody, it's a 2-year gamble that you're going to pay off. If something goes wrong in that first 2 years, they just made a $200,000 to $250,000 mistake between salary, benefits, and training costs. So it's typically very difficult to get in, a long process. We've had many reps and managers that come in and tell their story about how it took them 12 months just to get their first interview. So this speeds things up quite a bit for you, because having shown that you've taken the time and money to invest in yourself set you aside from all the other candidates. In fact, I just had a student today interview with Medtronic for a position, and they told him he was one of 108 candidates that had applied. So you need something to make you stand out. Give you an idea how big the size of the market is. Abbott, Medtronic kind of bounce back and forth as to who's the biggest market share leader in terms of total sales. And we're talking 31 billion in sales. When I first started back in 1988, yep, I'm that old. Medtronic had just crossed the 500 million mark in sales for the year. So when people asked, is this industry going to grow? Well, it's gone from 500 million a year to 31 billion in 35 years. So I don't see that slowing down, because many of the divisions we're talking about today didn't exist when I first started. So Abbott, Medtronic, Johnson Johnson, those are the three big companies that we work with, and they're at the top of the pack. Abbott, we're looking at 130 plus countries, 160,000, 100,000, 103,000 employees, 160 countries, 130 ways to impact people's lives. Some of the divisions they have: cardiovascular, diabetes, diagnostics, pharmaceuticals, nutrition, neuromodulation. So once you're in, and we tell all of our students that the tough part is getting hired by one of these companies, but once you're in, it's so much easier to move around within the company or within the industry, because every day you go to work, you're rubbing elbows with somebody that can help you get to where you want to go in your career. St. Jude Medical was a company that was acquired by Abbott, which gave them their cardiovascular division. And not to get too detailed on you, but you can see how some of the revenues add up for ICDs, which are implantable cardioverter defibrillators, pacemakers, atrial fibrillation is your electrophysiology division, structural heart is your valve repair division. They have a heart failure division, Thoratec, that does left ventricular assist devices. I've got some pictures of those. But all of these companies kind of grew from small companies. St. Jude started out as a single product company that sold heart valves. And they acquired several other companies to become St. Jude Medical. And then they got acquired by Abbott. So nobody really goes away. They just get acquired by somebody else. And kind of what's driven that is, as hospitals have gotten bigger and become hospital systems rather than individual hospitals, companies have striven to get bigger so that they become a big player for the hospital. So small companies can tend to get eliminated from contracts if you're not big enough. Boston Scientific, another one of the big companies in our space, they do cardiovascular, rhythm management, medical surgical, and they're all over the world: U.S., Europe, Asia, Middle East. All these companies are international. Johnson and Johnson, I didn't have an updated slide because they recently got rid of their consumer products division. They spun it off into a company called Kenvue, but they still do pharmaceuticals and medical diagnostic devices. And the Biosense Webster division is kind of in the cardiovascular space. So that's their electrophysiology division. Give you a look at some of the dollars for Medtronic. All the different areas Medtronic plays in. CRDM is your pacemakers, defibrillators, advanced surgical, orthopedics. They limit their orthopedics to just the spine. They do peripheral vascular disease, neurological, coronary, diabetes, general surgical, structural heart, patient care, nursing care, patient monitoring, neurovascular. So a huge variety of businesses they're in. And again, international companies. What do these people make? This is a little bit of a dated slide, but the range for a clinical specialist here shows 60 to 125. Our students have typically been getting hired between 85 and 125,000 as compensation packages for all these companies. So it's a great investment to start a career with a six-figure income right out of a 6-month training program. What does a cardiac rhythm management clinical specialist do? Again, these are the people that are working with pacemakers and defibrillators and heart failure devices. So the industry loves acronyms. So ICD is an implantable cardioverter defibrillator for people with sudden cardiac arrest or are at risk for that. CRT is a cardiac resynchronization therapy type device for people with heart failure. An ILR is an implantable loop recorder, and it's just a diagnostic device to try to catch arrhythmias. So you'd be involved with the implantation of those devices. You bring the product, you help the doctor pick what he's going to use, you explain the product to the physician, and then you're actually involved when they implant the device by analyzing the leads when they place it in the heart, programming the device the way you want it to work, troubleshooting the system if something's going wrong. And then you have to follow these patients for the rest of their lives. Once they have a device, they have to be followed routinely and emergently for the rest of their lives. So you're going to actually be in the case. The person here with kind of the red vest, the red lead, with her hand on her face, is standing next to a pacemaker programmer, and that's what you use to analyze the leads once they're placed in the heart and program the device. So you're critically important to these procedures. Once the patient has a device, here is a picture of someone checking a patient after they've had the device to make sure it's functioning appropriately, and to be able to interpret diagnostics and any arrhythmic episodes they might have had to make sure the device is programmed appropriately. That's what a cardiac resynchronization therapy device looks like. And here's how it's implanted. So they go through a vein just under your collarbone, the subclavian vein, and put leads in your right atrium, your right ventricle, and over in the left ventricle to make both halves of your heart pump consistently for somebody with heart failure. Another new type of device is what they call a sub-Q ICD. So instead of going through a vein, especially for younger patients, and we've had actually a couple of students in our program that had this type of device. When you're in your 20s, you don't want to put a lead in the vein right away because you want to save that because the patient's going to need a defibrillator for the rest of their lives. You can now put a lead just under the skin on top of the sternum and implant the device in the armpit, and it can defibrillate the heart that way. The next biggest item coming out that's been out for a while now is what they call a leadless pacemaker. So instead of a wire going actually into the heart and then attached to a device that gets implanted in your chest, the device is small enough now they can implant it right in your heart. And that long catheter goes away, so it's just what's left is just that tiny little device on the right hand lower part of the picture. That's the actual pacemaker. Implantable cardiac monitor or implantable loop recorder. It wasn't that big. So the bottom one kind of is the size of a USB stick. The smaller one is like the size of a AAA battery, only flat. And now they can be implanted in a doctor's office and they record EKG continuously. And you can program it so that if the rate goes too slow or goes too fast, it'll automatically record EKG, or you can activate it yourself with a little activator if you have symptoms. And this can help a doctor diagnose whether you're having cardiac issues or if it may be neurological or something else. There's a picture of how they can implant it, how small it is. And this is becoming a division all by itself. So diagnostics is going to be another big area of growth for these industries because they can pack more and more information into these little devices that will record what the patient's doing and help them diagnose things before they get too far advanced. Another big update, this is an iPad, but the way they communicate with these devices now is through Bluetooth technology. So a patient has a cell phone, which just about everybody on the planet does these days. They can download an app where your phone will actually talk to your implanted pacemaker or defibrillator. So if you've had an episode, it will immediately download it to your phone and send it to the internet, where somebody can download it and take a look at what's going on. So you can be pretty much constantly monitored. This is a left ventricular assist device. So for our heart failure patient whose left ventricle has gotten so weak that the cardiac resynchronization therapy device is no longer effective, they can actually put a pump in your heart, pump the blood out of the bottom of the ventricle and up into the aorta rather than going through the valves. And you can go home with this now. It's small enough that they call it destination therapy. When the devices were much bigger, which I'll show you in the next slide, it was a bridge to transplant. But not everybody qualifies or can get a transplant. So now this is a therapy they can go home with. And this is another specialty rep job. You wouldn't get right out of this program, but certainly could qualify for it once you've been in the field for a little while. And that's kind of how they've gotten smaller over the years. The one on the far right, the Heart Assist 5, is only 92 grams, or it used to be 1,150 grams, so much smaller. Go home with it. The other area we train people on is electrophysiology. So what does an EP clinical specialist do? We have to provide support during an electrophysiology case. So when people have arrhythmias, they can put catheters up in the heart to try to diagnose where that arrhythmia is coming from. So all those catheters with those little dark spots are electrodes, and they pick up electrical signals to try to isolate what part of the heart is causing the arrhythmia problem. And while the doctor's manipulating catheters in the patient's heart, he needs somebody to sit in front of their computer and look at all the electrograms that those catheters generate to help him figure out where's the arrhythmia. So that's kind of the product in a cath lab or EP lab. There's the system also, but you'd actually be sitting in front of a cardiac monitor symbol like this, looking at a computer screen, and you would be the one responsible for creating that map of the heart, the geography of the heart there, and helping them figure where is the arrhythmia coming from. So you and the physician work together to determine where is the arrhythmia at and where's a good place to try to ablate it, meaning use a type of energy to kill that part of the heart to stop it from causing the arrhythmia. So it's really an integral part of the procedure, and your input counts. This is a picture of the left atrium from behind. So those little branches coming off on either side are your pulmonary veins. And so atrial fibrillation is one of the most frequent arrhythmias going. It's a kind of an epidemic. And so what they find is they can try to stop atrial fibrillation by doing what they call a pulmonary vein isolation. So they try to cut off the electrical connection between the pulmonary veins and the left atrium, and those little red dots are where the doctor did an ablation. So he burned the tissue all the way around the veins to try to disconnect them from the veins from the heart to stop atrial fibrillation. So these procedures, whereas cardiac rhythm management, you get a device for the rest of your life, this procedure, you actually cure somebody. They come in with atrial fibrillation, they go home in sinus rhythm, and they're cured. So it's very rewarding. Another way to do it is with cryoablation. So they could put a balloon up in the pulmonary vein and freeze it rather than burn it. Structural heart clinical specialists. They provide clinical support during TAVR. Another acronym means a transcatheter aortic valve replacement. Left LAA is a left atrial appendage closure or mitral valve repair and other related cases. So you're going to be the one to go help the physician do this. And believe it or not, a lot of physicians will say, do you think this is a good place for me to deploy the valve? Or do you think I have a good fit with my closure device? So they tend to start to depend on the reps, and the reps become very knowledgeable because you get to work with all the doctors in your territory. So if you're in, we're in Houston, so if you're in the medical center in Houston, you may be assigned to Methodist Hospital, St. Luke's, Memorial Hermann. You're there every day, all day, working with all the physicians that do this. You start to become the expert because you learn from all the physicians, all the different techniques and tricks they have. And eventually you may be sent out to a smaller hospital that wants to try to start to do these procedures. And they're going to look at you and say, how do we do this? Teach us how to do it. So you get to be the one to do that. So here's a TAVR procedure, is probably the best picture. People that have what they call aortic stenosis. So in other words, your valve starts to get old and calcified and it won't open and close the way it should. It really restricts your blood flow, causes high blood pressure. They can put a new valve in by going up with a catheter up through the femoral artery into the aorta. And once they get it over the old valve, they can inflate the balloon that opens that valve and crushes the old valve out of the way. But it has to be very precise because you don't want to block the coronary arteries or get too deep into the left ventricle. So they need to deploy in the right place, and you need to be able to look at echo views and tell them if they're in the right spot. And that's a job all by itself. If you're the TAVR rep, that's your job. Just do valve replacement procedures. Another one is MitraClip. So people with mitral valve regurgitation. So the valve doesn't close and stay closed the way it's supposed to close. So when the ventricle pumps, instead of pumping blood out into the aorta to the rest of the body, it goes back up into the left atrium because the mitral valve won't close. And this procedure always amazes me because while the valve is moving, they can put a catheter in. They have to punch a hole through the septum of the atrium, go over to the left side, and then catch that valve while it's moving with that little clip to clip the valve so that it kind of creates two valves, which stops the regurgitation or at least greatly reduces it. And that's a rep job. Well, now they have also for the tricuspid valve, so that's a rep job, an individual rep job. Here's another one, left atrial appendage closure device. Part of the left atrium is called the left atrial appendage, which is just a place where blood collects. And when you're in normal sinus rhythm, it functions fine. What happens if you go into atrial fibrillation is your atrium no longer contracts and just kind of quivers. So blood can start to pool in that left atrial appendage, and if it coagulates and a clot breaks loose, you're going to have a stroke. So patients with permanent atrial fibrillation typically have to be on lifelong anticoagulants. And many people don't tolerate those very well. It can be a lot of side effects and symptoms. They don't like it. This device, if it's implanted, can close off, can occlude that left atrial appendage so blood can't get into the clot. They can come off blood thinners and live without anticoagulants for the rest of their life. One of the big benefits of this program is we're located in the Texas Medical Center, the largest medical institution in the country. There's several institutions here, all within a couple of blocks of each other. We are part of the Memorial Hermann system, and we get to actually do clinical observations where you can see hospitals in the medical center, but also 3 other hospitals that are in and around the medical center area, and also device clinics for EP Heart. EP Heart is the largest electrophysiology group in Houston, and they were the founder of this program. So you get to go see clinics being done, you get to go see procedures being done, which gives you a chance to do a lot of things. Learn the logistics of getting into a hospital and navigating where to go. Learning how to talk to the staff. Visit with the doctors because they'll teach you what they're doing after the case or sometimes during the case. And get to meet reps because the more people you meet in the industry, the more likely you are to get hired. The more people that are pulling for you to get hired. Oops, a little fast. Here's our team. You see me and Wendy. Dr. Doherty is a very seasoned electrophysiologist, more than 35 years of experience. She actually teaches the electrophysiology portion of our program. She comes 3 days a week and teaches a lot of it, along with Wendy, who teaches the rest of the EP portion. I teach the cardiac rhythm management portion. Courtney McAllister is a contract employee for us. She was a full-time employee at UTHealth, but she now has her PhD. So BSN is selling her short. She's got a PhD in structural heart. So she's worked for Edwards Life Sciences doing TAVR procedures. She was a heart failure nurse here at UTHealth, Memorial Hermann. And now she works for a startup valve company. So she's very seasoned, very professional, and very knowledgeable. And then Isabel is our administrator. She helps with all the logistics of getting you in the program and helping you get going. Here's the physicians in EP Heart. We actually have one more who we haven't added his picture yet. So all these physicians do procedures in the hospitals. Dr. Mukherjee also does presentations for us. And they get involved with education of fellows. So you get to sit in on education during procedures with these guys, but also get to do remote learning when they're teaching the fellows. So the fellows will meet once or twice a week, and we get to do remote tune into that. So we get to watch the education they get. So it's pretty high level that you have access to all these types of physicians and fellows as part of the program. This is just our training center. We've got a nice little waiting area, break room, most important place. We're going to have lunch and breaks. Got our classroom where we do most of our presentations in the morning. In the afternoon, our programmer lab has been greatly expanded, but you have access to programmers from all the different companies with EKG simulators and live devices. So what you learn in the morning, you can come into the programmer lab in the afternoon and practice like you have a live patient, because we can program what type of arrhythmia you have, what are some of the other features, and then you get to practice with the devices. We have people from industry come in besides the managers coming in to do presentations, to get to meet you. We have industry experts come in to teach certain parts of aspects of the different areas. So you get to hear from actual professionals who are out in the field working on a day-to-day basis. There's another one, the woman in the blue. She was an echo specialist and would teach our students about that. We have a $350,000 simulator where you get to do simulated procedures like pacemaker implants or EP procedures. When you do clinical observations, you get to actually go in. So here we were just kind of doing a tour with our students in a cath lab, looking at all the equipment, kind of teaching them what's in there. And here's an actual procedure. So you see the two people in the red hats at the back of the room there. One is a rep, and the other one bent over a little bit further is one of our students. So when I say you get to observe the procedures, I wasn't kidding. You can actually be right in there asking questions of the rep, the doctor. You have to, pick the right time. But you get very good view of what's going on, and it's a great, like I say, opportunity to learn, but also connect with reps that are in the field. What does the program look like? Well, we got to start with 2 weeks of what we call fundamentals to give you a good background in things like anatomy, physiology, EKG, pharmacology, cath lab equipment, etc. We do 8 weeks of cardiac rhythm management. We do 7 weeks of electrophysiology, 3 weeks of structural heart, and within those weeks, we have 2 weeks of professional, we call professional weeks, where you're going to get to have managers come in. So this week we've got 8 companies that come in. 8 companies that are coming in either to present or to actually interview reps, interview our students. So you get to connect, like I say, with 25 to 30 actual hiring managers while you're here, and we're going to coach you on the interview process, how to write your resume, how to interview, what to do, what not to do, because there's different types of interviews that we're going to coach you for each step of the way, so that when you do interview, you're kind of prepared for what's coming. Because interviewing can be a very awkward, unnatural situation, and the more you do it, the more coaching you get, the better you are at it. And like I say, that's typically what keeps most people from getting hired is They don't understand what they're getting into. They really need to be prepared for it. In the last couple of weeks, besides weekly clinical observations, if you're here for the whole program, uh, you get dedicated clinical observations every day. And I say that if you're still here because during our program, we'll let you take a job anytime a job comes up. So we've had people leave the program as early as 8 weeks because a manager came in, liked them, and said, "We'll hire you right now." So we don't make you finish the program because for us, the goal of the program is to get you a job, not to get you a degree. You should already have that from college. Our goal is to teach what you need technically and professionally to get you a job. And see if I can make this play. Maybe not. I got a video, but it doesn't look like I can make it play. So at this point, I think that's all I have to say. Are there any questions?
John and Wendy, thank you. That is an amazing overview of an incredibly exciting program. And for anyone who's interested in going into one of these roles with one of these companies, I highly recommend you check out their program. It is top notch, and it is certainly sought after by industry for the caliber and the quality of the individuals that they certify. We did have a couple of questions that came through, so I'll go ahead and just start with these if I can pose them to you. So the first question, I actually think this is a really good one. The program is so exciting, and I know that a lot of candidates have expressed interest in these types of roles. One question that routinely came through was, how do they know if they're actually a good fit for the program? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you have to want, I mean, you have to kind of want to work in this space. The first thing is do a little research. You want to do this. And we take people from all different backgrounds. So what these companies are primarily looking for are the best people, not necessarily the best degree. Biomedical engineers have a little bit of an edge a lot of times with the managers because it sounds like a really good fit. But some of our best students have come from very diverse backgrounds. I had a guy who had an accounting degree who played pro golf for a while, decided to get serious, and he's been one of our most successful students, having been promoted several times in just a few years, which is kind of unheard of. And we've got people from kinesiology backgrounds, biology backgrounds, communication backgrounds, finance, nurse, all different kinds. What we're looking for is somebody who wants to work, really loves medicine, and is not looking for an 8 to 5 job because this is the medical field. And you may wind up starting a day as early as 6:30 in the morning to be in the hospital to set up for a case. You may get stuck working till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night some days because the case went bad and you got to stay there till they finish. Now, that's not every day, but it's unpredictable. So you have to be flexible and be able to work when the doctor needs you, not try to put it in the inbox and do it tomorrow because there just is no such thing. The other thing that I think that we look for in candidates is that you have to be inquisitive and curious. The more you're good, the better you are at asking good questions, the better you're going to be at getting hired, and the better you're going to be as a rep because doctors don't like to be told what to do. But if you ask a leading question, you can lead them in the right direction because of the depth of your question. They know what you're talking about.
That's wonderful. That's fantastic, and gives them a really good insight into what to anticipate as they go into this type of program and beyond for roles. The second question that came in was, where do students tend to struggle once they start? It's certainly an intensive program from a clinical standpoint. Give us your thoughts on where you tend to see them stumble so that they can have a good frame of reference for when they begin.
Well, that's a great question because we cover this part of the application process. We go through an hour-long application interview to make sure you know what you're getting into because some people think being a rep is glamorous and you're going to drop off donuts or lunch and go play golf and then go to dinners. And when they work a 10 or 12-hour day, go, oh my God, this was too much like work. But in the program where they tend to struggle, it's not so much the technical side as the professional side. Like I said, you have to be good at asking questions. So, for example, one of the areas I've had to, coach or course or threaten students is if I bring a manager in, sometimes a regional manager, sometimes area vice presidents will come in to do a presentation, and they'll talk for 45 minutes to an hour. And at the end, they'll say, "Do you have any questions for me?" you have got to ask a question. You can't sit there, mum, and not say anything and expect to get an interview. So they're looking for people that are enthusiastic, engaged, interested, inquisitive. And the point of the question isn't necessarily to get an answer. You could already know the answer to the question. One of the questions is to get them to talk to you, make eye contact, have a nice little conversation, have them go, I like that person. That was a great question. They're inquisitive. We need to make an appointment to interview them. I've had a couple of times where the whole class just sat there and stared at them. I had to almost physically beat their butts when the guy left, because it's like he took time out of his day to do this and you didn't ask him one question. They're not going to be impressed that you sat there. So that's one area people struggle with. During the interviews can be another area where they struggle. You have got to ask some questions during the interview, and not about benefits or salary or vacation days. Ask questions about how you can help them achieve their goals. Because the managers that show up are there to help them. They're not there to help you. They need to hire somebody that can help them achieve their goals in terms of making sales plans. And if you come in looking like you're more interested in what you're going to get out of this than what they are, it's going to be a short interview. So we coach you with that, but you have to ask those questions. And then the big one at the end of the interview is always, do you have any more questions for me before you end the interview? And some people struggle with this because you have to be a little forward. You have to say, thank you so much for the interview. Can you please share with me what the interview process looks like? Okay, and it gives you an answer. And I say, can you share with me what the next step in the interview process is? Get that answer. And they say, well, now the big one, and this is where a lot of people will get a little timid, is, did I do well enough this interview to earn the next step in the interview process? And if not, could you please share some feedback with me as to what's holding me back? And if you didn't, if you said, don't know you're going to go, that's great. If not, you said, well, I'm not sure we're going to advance you because of the way you answered this question. You got another chance to answer the question. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. Let me see if I can readdress that issue and give you a better perspective on that. When you're done, go right back to, now that I've answered that question, have I done well enough to earn the next step in the interview process? You have got to try to close them. Because it's a sales organization. If you don't ask for the next interview or ask for the job at some point, you're not going to get it. And then the last thing
I think what you're highlighting is critical, and it's sharing with candidates that it's not just about the clinical piece, it's about the industry piece and navigating the corporate world and getting into the industry. So, I mean, you could almost enhance the title of your course to include that as well.
Well, and after you interview with somebody, you have got to reach out to them on a weekly basis with just a text or an email, not paragraphs, just some tidbit you saw on social media, you learned in the class for clinical observation. Hey, I thought this was really interesting. I wanted to share with you. I hope you have a great day. That's what we call staying on the radar. They go, oh, there's Jenny again. Jenny just texted. Next week, oh, there's Jenny again. If you do it often enough, they see that you're interested and motivated and want it. That's going to get their attention. So the technical part's important, but really what they're looking for are the people with the right people skills. Are you good at developing relationships? Are you good at problem solving? Are you good at conflict resolution? Do you have a good work ethic? Do you have good initiative? Are you creative? Those are all the things they need, because you can teach anybody how to run a program. I need to get somebody who can make other people interested in using our equipment, not just how to use it.
It's so important, and that touch point is critical, keeping their name top of mind. One question.
And some people say, oh, geez, I don't want to bother them. I don't want to annoy them. This is their job. They're always looking for talent. They're always looking for somebody who wants it and will chase it. So if they haven't heard from you in a month or 2 months, you have been forgotten.
This is true. A great question that just came through, and then I have a couple more, but I do want to address this one, is how does this program help you decide between CRM, EP, or structural? In other words, if you're a candidate coming in and you're not sure which one of these you might enjoy the most, how would you recommend they kind of approach that so they can decide?
We recommend you come in with an open mind. We've had several students come in just sure that they're going to work in the CRM field because that's all they've heard about and know. But ultimately, they may end up getting an offer in EP, and that goes the other way as well. So what we recommend is having an open mind. They've got the benefit of having opportunities of those weekly clinical observations in the field, which helps them network with doctors, fellows, staff, and industry personnel on a variety of levels. So just because you think this is the company or the field or the industry that you are destined for, it may not be. So we ask people to have an open mind, and it really works out well because they're exposed to all of them throughout the program in a variety of ways. So an open mind.
And to add to that a little bit is I tell most of our students is you're not going to get to pick the job. The job picks you because you're going to meet, like I say, 25 to 30 managers. And you may say, geez, I really want to work for him. I want to work for that company. I want to do that job in that city. And he says, you know what? I don't think you fit my team. I think you'd be good, but you're just not a fit for me. And some other person comes in and says, you're perfect. I want you on my team. You're exactly what I'm looking for. And you may say, well, I never thought about working for them or even doing that job, but that's who you connected with. So we tell people, keep an open mind. If you connect with somebody, take the job you're offered. Get picky on the second job. Because once you're in, now you've got what everybody wants, experience. And if you've done a great job if you're in the industry for 2 or 3 years and you've done a great job, the next interviews are so easy because there's no questions asked. If you're good, we've seen it. Everybody's watched you work, the doctors, the reps, all the competitors, patients. If I want you, then the only questions are, when can you start and how much do I need to pay you? By the same token, if you did a terrible job, we don't have to worry about interviewing you because we're not going to talk to you. So don't get picky on the first one, get picky on the second job.
That's great advice. A couple of questions have come in and they're all kind of addressing the same topic here. And it's around, what does the path usually look like from finishing the program to actually getting hired? And I think it's alluding to, how you're bridging that gap of just submitting the applications into, okay, I've graduated and now I'm getting an interview and actually getting a position.
So that's kind of not a black and white answer. It's kind of gray with a good reason. So many of our students get hired during the program. John alluded earlier that it's a 24-week program and some students will stay all 24 weeks, but some get job offers sooner. It's not uncommon to get an offer by week 14. Again, your purpose for attending is getting a job. We create that great foundation so that the hiring managers are willing to take time to talk with you. So this class, we've had students get hired already. We're in week 12 right now, and we've already had 3 get job offers. So the question you asked is what does the process look like from finishing the program to getting a job offer? They're usually getting a job offers by the end of the program, by end of week 24. Because during the program, they're getting lectures from us, conversations with us, conversations with doctors, clinical observations. Industry personnel not only come in to present, but they're doing interviews. Yesterday, one company came in and interviewed everybody individually. Another company tomorrow, another company Friday, another company Monday, and then throughout the program. So you're getting that kind of feedback live during the program and after. And then, like I said, many people are getting hired during the program. So we can coach you. We're doing practice interviews with you. So we're giving all sorts of that professional, conversational feedback during the program. So overall, most of the trainees or students are acquiring jobs during the 24 weeks. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yes, I think so.
Right.
It's a fluid.
And to give a little stat on that, we'll finish up our eight and a half years, 17th program. We've got a 98% success rate of getting people placed. So only 3 students over the 8.5 years didn't get a job.
And for the good or the bad, I because of my age, I tend to be many people's moms, and they will continue to text and reach out to both of us, even after they've been in the field for years, for coaching, whether it's clinical, technical, or professional communication, to either help them with a different job, a new job, a promotion, seeking credentialing. So you've got us for ongoing.
Once you do the program, we'll help you for the rest of your career if you want.
Well, both of you then, this dovetails right into the last question, which was, do you offer alumni type support post-certification?
Oh, I guess that's so. So you get a certificate of completion with us if you complete the program, and you get the certificate of completion when you get that job offer. So there's 2 ways to get that. Credentialing and certifications you get through other entities once you've been out in the field for a while. As you can see, I've got all the credentialing, just I'm that kind of a nerd, but we will coach you in doing those certification exams. We will coach you in promotions, those kind of things. So alumni support, yes, just because that's something we enjoy.
Yeah, there's an organization called the Heart Rhythm Society, which is a professional group for electrophysiologists. And within that group, they have the International Board of Heart Rhythm Examiners, and they're the ones that can provide you with a certification for CRM or EP. But you really need to have at least a year of experience, probably 2, before you take that exam, because they're not easy. And they don't ask questions only about your company. They ask questions about the whole industry. So to try to do it without some actual field experience would kind of be fruitless, because you're probably not going to do very well, because they grade them on a curve. And so if you happen to be the low end, you're going to get cut off.
This has been fantastic. Thank you both so very much for sharing about your program. It's incredibly impressive, your 98% success rate and your partnerships within the industry. Would you like to share where candidates can go to apply or learn a little bit more? Have you got a website you'd like to share?
Yeah, we do have a website. I'll be darned if I can actually remember the website address.
He's going to pull it up and share it. We can also share on your LinkedIn site, but he's going to pull it up here to share the screen. And then we can also, they can email us for more information, to have a phone call or a video meeting at any time as well. It's med.uth.edu. Med. There you go. He's fixing to share it now so you can see. One moment. No.
So with any questions that come up post, please feel free to email at the email address they're going to share. And certainly check out their certification program. It's incredible. And like I said, with a 98% success rate, if you are considering roles in electrophysiology, cardiac rhythm management, structural heart, there's new technology coming along all the time. These folks are on top of it, and they will get you where you need to be.
And you can see on our screen, our website is displayed there, and our general email is on the center of the screen. So we would always be happy to reply to any emails and set up a phone call or a video meeting if that helps anybody thinking about this career or our program.
Yeah, you can look at the website, but you have to email us to get an application, and we can always provide a lot more information for you if you email that email address.
Wonderful. So that's epheart.trainingprogram@uth.tmc.edu.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Wendy. This has been such a pleasure learning more about your program, and congratulations on your continued success. And I'm sure that some of our listeners today, you'll be seeing their lovely faces soon enough.
Well, thank you so much, Jay. We appreciate the opportunity, and we look forward to hearing from the people who have been listening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.